just to figure out, yeah, okay. Does anyone already have a question? Yes? Perfect, okay. We have 3 questions, and can we take it in blocks of 3? So the first person was there in the back with the glasses and the beard. Ah, sorry.
Okay, it goes so fast. About the last Vortrag, I find it very interesting because there's some contradiction. My name is Nicholas, I have to say it again. Contradiction seen with this kind of like usage of human rights and liberal rights in terms of the LGBTQ community, which, you know, according to Tagesschau media, should be against Hamas because they're Islamism and should, you know, defend Israel and the queer haven of Tel Aviv. Yet they seem, to me, at least in my circles, be very rather against Israel and in support of ending the genocide of the Palestinians, which I find very interesting. Like, in a way, they return to the left radical roots they used to have and go away from the subjugation by capital via queer washing. I think that's a very interesting thing which happens right now, like in a small aspect of many. However, what I do also see yet not be done is that I fail to see that class solidarity can't be defined solely how subaltern a people, community, identity, etc. is. They have an understanding that capitalism is bad, but they don't have quite the class solidarity yet, which they technically should have because they usually are like not part of the bourgeois or even petit bourgeois class. And they still want Ukraine to succeed to defend their rights there against anti-LGBT Russia, but with a militarily hugely inspired by anti-LGBT tradition of fascism. You know, the worst example of it that I've seen is like some Ukrainian LGBT artist made a piece which just says Daddy Bandera, and I find that kind of ironic. Maybe that's not, maybe this person is aware of it. But yeah, I just wanted to mention as a commentary, it's not just questions, I think, yeah, of like also good examples where people which looked like to be frowned by the subjugation go away from it and return.
Okay, so I think that Comrade Dimitrios had a question also. He's to your left, Max. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Stefan. And I don't agree with the hypothesis of the last talk. I think it's not new that social democrats are part of genocide, are part of authoritarian developments, and so on and so forth. Just look back to Friedrich Ebert in Germany. And I think this doesn't mean they are fascist, but it means they are opportunists in a way. And I think this has been differently answered in the history in different countries. For example, there was a social fascist hypothesis of the communists in Germany who said we don't work together with the social democrats anymore. And in contrast to that, in France, they had they acted together, and this was also important for rejecting fascism in France and also for building up resistance during World War II. And this doesn't mean that I'm fine with social democrats, but I think it's a different analysis. I think although if they are opportunist regarding the interests of capital, I think more towards the interests of capital, not so much towards fascism, they are still part of the working class, and in general they also know about the interests of the working class. And we should really take into account the interests when doing these analyses.
Thank you for your speeches. All was very interesting. Let me focus in a specific aspect of all that. I mean, firstly, in the Eastern Europe, only a few people knows that the far-right traditions in all the NATO countries are controlled by secret services of USA, and there are deep state and paramilitary, etc., organizations which are very well organized. So I'm talking about that. Why? Because especially in Russia, there are some people, mainly from the government, but not only from the government, who think that many nationalistic political forces in Europe and far-right forces in Europe are our friends, or we can make something like a coalition with them, because they, according to that discourse, they are supporting the national interests and the traditional values against the new liberals, against the identity, woke agenda, etc. policies. So they are anti-globalists, and they are our friends. This is a very naive position, but it's very popular in Russia, very popular, unfortunately. And by the mass media, this position is very, very strongly reproducing every day. And I'd like to ask a question. According to those illusions, massive illusions, we have a bipolarity not between anti-imperialist socialist powers against the axis of imperialism led by USA, but we have something so-called deeper. And deeper is what? Is the fight between globalists, neoliberals, and anti-globalists. So some people, even progressive people, unfortunately, in Eastern Europe, thinks that so-called anti-globalists from the imperialist camp, they are something like anti-imperialists of nowadays. This is a very dangerous position, I would say, because it is undermining the real struggle against imperialism. And I mean some form of so-called new appearance of the Black International. And the Black International is becomes very powerful because of the Trump and Trumpism in USA. We have a good experience about Elon Musk Nazist support of IFT and other parties like that. But to lose our illusions, we have to have a look at Meloni phenomena and the rhetorics before the elections and after the elections. For example, the Orban's rhetorics, nowadays, he told that the violence, the power, is the only language Putin and Russia can understand. Okay? And in Russia, somebody is continuing to present Orban as a friend of Russia in that war. I don't touch the issue of Israel, but because 8 of the 10 oligarchs of Russia are in Israel now and have passports from Israel. It's follow the capital. But we have to have a clear position, and I'd like you to inform us about that aspect of illusions and propaganda of nowadays. The far rights in Eastern Europe and how they have similarities, for example, with some fascist or pro-fascist tendencies like Dugin's ideology. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have 3 questions. Maybe the panel wants to react to these 3 interventions, and then we can gather 3 more, and they're in this part of the room, to my right. So, does someone want to? Well, you? Yeah.
I will address the two questions. The one, the comrade in yellow t-shirt, excellent comment. I think we need to distinguish between the leadership of social democracy, which is opportunistic and makes concessions to authoritarianism and to neoliberalism and even to fascism in certain contexts, and the rank and file of social democracy. And the popular classes that still vote and maybe still have illusions in social democracy. If we put a label social fascism to all of them, we will alienate the very popular classes that we want to win over. And we will undermine the kind of popular front anti-fascist unity that we need in order to fight off the fascist danger. So I commend that comment. I welcome that comment very much. Now, Dimitri's question, very important, I think. This false dichotomy between globalists and anti-globalists. It's a shallow dichotomy. The anti-globalists, especially in these countries like Romania, Hungary, Poland, they are anti-globalists when it comes to keeping desperate migrants at the border, you know. They are punching below against the oppressed categories in society, against LGBTQ people, against refugees, Muslims, Roma. This is when they are anti-globalist. When it comes to global capital, transnational capital, they find a way to cohabitate with them. Even Orban, which, as you correctly pointed out, has implemented certain measures of economic nationalism and protectionism, boosting the domestic bourgeoisie in sectors like banking, energy, constructions, and so on. His son-in-law is a big real estate developer in Hungary. But at the same time, he accommodated foreign capital. The German investors, the German auto manufacturers are very happy with the Orban regime because he destroyed the trade unions, he lowered all kinds of labor market regulations, he implemented the lowest corporate tax in the whole European Union. I think it's 9, 10 or 10%. So they are very happy. There was a survey a few years ago among German investors in Hungary. Who would you vote for if you could vote in Hungarian elections? 90% said Orban. So they are very happy with the Orban regime, and he found this kind of, you know, if you want a Bonapartist way, he found a way to balance between the interests of all these different classes and class fractions. But for how long he'll be able to do that is yet to be determined. Thank you.
Okay, does someone else want to take the comments or the questions? No?
Okay, it was very interesting commentaries to my speech, but and I think that it's not necessary to answering of all of these points, but I have two points. Yeah, in the question of social chauvinism and social democrats generally. Okay, my speech was from Polish perspective. Yeah, in Poland. Post-liberal fascism has a clean form. In Poland and in Baltic Republic, yeah, and in some countries in eastern part of NATO, yeah. But in countries like Germany, post-liberal fascism, in my opinion, is not in clean form. And German social democratic are a little different by Polish social democrats. In Poland, social democrats are in a first front of chauvinism. Yeah, Polish social democrats. Okay, maybe we have some. Maybe not 100%, yes, but generally, yes. Okay, and Dimitrios told about a very important problem, because there is big dangers for us that if we analyze and critique post-liberal fascism in this way as me, it's okay. Some people who have good anti-imperialist attitude is could we think that about some form of alliance with this this force that Dimitrios told. And in Poland, we have also this problem, because in Poland, we have small nationalist pro-Russian groups who try joint elements of nationalism and elements of communism. Yeah, in Poland we have a small group of nationalists who try to build creation that they are Marxists, yeah, or semi-Marxists. That defend Polish people, people's Poland, and some of them talk that they are Marxists. So this is very, and for Marxists it's dangerous to we have allies, yeah. We have to be very precisely, and we okay.
Do you want to go ahead? You can take this one.
Thank you. I can tell you that when I prepared for this conference in Hungary, I had some fears that our position will be too difficult to understand. But now, after 2 days, I came to the conclusion that we are speaking the same language, and it is very good that we understand that if we speak about fascism, we must not speak only about historical fascism, which existed in Italy, Germany, in Hungary, in some other countries. But we should see the new forms, the new developments of this idea. And I think that we can really agree that liberalism is now using those methods which were used traditionally by classical fascist forces. And there is a real danger that even liberal tendency can not only use but can turn into real fascism as a last aim of the capitalism to save capitalist forces. But I would like to add one more question we didn't speak about. You know that if we speak about Europe, it's not only Western Europe and Central Europe. I think that Russia, Belarus, Ukraine also belong to the category of Europe. And I think that we should openly say that fascism has already returned to this part of Europe. In Ukraine, we see a fascist nationalist regime. What they are doing, it's absolutely clear. Their policy is not only anti-Russian policy, but it's a policy directed to liquidate the Russian population. And unfortunately, this Ukrainian fascist policy is officially supported by the European Union. It means that the European Union is agitating against the Russian people. They want to cancel, to liquidate, to undermine the national existence of these people, as the fascists did it during the war. And I would like to turn your attention to the fact that there was a conference in Moscow, the second international anti-fascist conference, convened by the Communist Party of the Russian Federation and the Communist Party of Belarus, and they spoke directly about these questions. And especially now, when all of us remember the liberation of Europe from the fascism 80 years ago, we should remember all these efforts and understand that what the Russians are doing in Ukraine, it is also partly a fight against fascism. And that's why we don't share the opinion of some of the communist parties in Europe, especially the Greek communists, who say that the policy of Russia is an imperialist policy. An imperialist policy cannot tolerate and cannot support it. It's a policy which serves the interest of the Russian nation, the Russian state, and the Communist Party of Russia supports this political line. And I think that one more attention that we communists sometimes are concerned that if we support traditional values, even conservative values, we can turn into capitalist forces. I can tell you that the Hungarian Workers' Party supports family. And we also think that family is a man and a woman. And we don't think so that we are an ultra-conservative political force. We are representing some traditional ideas. And we also think that nation must be saved in Europe. What will happen if we give up the national existence? There isn't a common Europe. There are nations, and these nations can really create Europe. And I think that the left forces and the communist forces should explain this fact to the people. And thank you for your very interesting remarks and questions.
Jelena, would you like to go or do? Okay, so we can take another round of questions. There was 3 people in the right side of the room from my side. So there was a person with a beard and glasses and a bun. There was a person in front of him, and then there was Comrade Aitak. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Lucas. I'm from Frankfurt. I'm studying there political economy, and I'm a member of the STS, the Socialist or the Democratic Socialists Students Organization. I have a question concerning, or I want to refer to the role of science and universities. As far as I see, the students played a crucial role in the protests in Serbia last year, and I want you, my question is, what do you think can the universities or science play, which role can science or universities play in the fight against fascism? And maybe you can talk you can just give us some notes on the situation of students in your home countries, the social situations, what are they thinking about the things you mentioned in your talks, and if it's possible, we are pretty interested in contacts to organizations who are maybe interested in some kind of left-wing alliance of science, and maybe you know some organizations we can contact.
Thank you. I find it very interesting that I understood it that way, that the core of the fascist ideology is anti-communism in the speeches, and I find it very plausible because you can't have the Tina ideology from Margaret Thatcher. There is no alternative. You can't have this ideology without erasing the real existing alternative of socialism before 1989. So I find it very astonishing that, in my view, the right is taking the fight of interpreting history is taking more serious than main parts of the left. And in that sense, I'm asking how the left in these countries is celebrating, for example, the Victory Day or the Liberation Day, because there lies very much that we can celebrate, that we can show what were the consequences of the liberation, even in Germany, regarding peace for example, the consequence was no military. Germany should have no military. Economic, cultural, there are very much potentials that you can show what is the alternative to the neoliberal Tina ideology today. So I think it is very important that we in the left rebuild this culture of liberation. In Hamburg, for example, we are making a big event in the middle of the city. Since 5 years, we celebrate the liberation of Germany, and we show how the liberation was done with the Soviet Union and anti-Hitler coalition, but also what were the consequences. Even in universities, that we have civil clauses, for example, it is rooting back to this thing. So yeah, I'm interested. How do you in the left celebrate the Victory Day, and how can we maybe make it a more internationalist way of celebrating it to counter these Tina ideology and to go over capitalism?
Then now, Aitak, but just one moment. The people who have their hands up, you can put them down. I have seen you. Okay.
Thank you so much for your presentations to the whole panel. I learned a lot and my head went working while you were talking, and I just want to make 2 points, just saying what I am taking away and what I will think about more and focus on. I think what you have shown, and all of you on very different levels, made me think that we have to be only because you're so concrete, but not only, we can think about the question how to understand fascism, not maybe only today, but in general, is not giving any general answers, first. Secondly, not only say imperialism, like only those forces who are serving imperialism, because then it becomes very abstract. But how you are showing it in a very concrete way, it is about the center of power of imperialism. It must be really shown who is serving which interests. Never mind what they are representing in their surface. And the surface of fascism can be anything. It can have all colors, all ideologies, and this is what I think I am taking away. It can be really anything, and also it can be used even to absorb all the powers and all the needs of people who are anti-fascists for fascism itself, like as Florian was showing, or actually each of you. And I think this is the mindset of the conference a little bit since yesterday, and I really appreciate us to go into the depth of concrete, very changing forms. And so the second point is, what I'm taking away is to think more about what does serving the center of power of imperialism mean in a national context. And we have words for this. We have the words comprador bourgeoisie, it was used, and national bourgeoisie, but even there it is such a changing form, because what appears today as national bourgeoisie can be tomorrow comprador bourgeoisie. And even they can use ideologies which makes us think they seem to be defending the nation, maybe today in one point, in the sense that in our words, national bourgeoisie, tomorrow, or actually the same day, serving the center of imperialism. So thank you so much. I think connecting is very, very important, and learning from your experiences. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we're a bit short on time, I think. So maybe there are 2 more questions in line. Can we take those 2 and then use it to conclude the panel also? Yeah? Okay, so there was a person in a shirt with some kind of, so the hand that is up now, thank you, and then the comrade in the yellow shirt from before.
Can you hear me? Thanks for your presentations. I'd like to address Comrade Gyula Thürmer. I don't think that nationalism should be part of a communist movement. I believe nationalism is an ideology that manages to divide the working class. I certainly don't think your assessment of Fidesz as a party that kept anti-Semitism in check is correct. I believe Fidesz does fight a liberal ideology, but it also does so by alluring to anti-Semitic stereotypes. And I believe your characterization of Fidesz as just a conservative party is not correct. I would like you to elaborate on the March of Honor and to elaborate on what is happening to Maya, who's currently imprisoned in Budapest. And I would like you to ask whether your party has shown solidarity with a true anti-fascist who went to Budapest to protest the March of Honor.
There was one more question here.
Thank you to this very interesting panel. I was also, same like Aitak, I was also evaluating everything as you were speaking, and also thinking of what Vijay was speaking about yesterday, about the whole culture of violence and the savage culture that we're experiencing in big parts of today's society. Florian, I was thank you for offering this framework where we can put this culture aspect basically, right, put it into the analysis and look at it within the framework of what can fascism look like today. I know it was a Polish perspective, but I do feel like you can use these analysis tools also for looking at German society, for example. I had to think of the genocide in Gaza and how a lot of us are saying that at some point history will show what is happening, right? And that this was a genocide, and how politicians of today were acting in support of the genocide. And maybe one day this will happen, but what I think scared me a bit, or like sunk in by listening to you talk, and also you, Jelena, when you were speaking about the reframing of history, is realizing that maybe this might happen someday, but what might happen now and what is more realistic that will happen now is that this genocide in Gaza will be justified even more and defended as defending human rights, basically, and defending some kind of like liberal democracy, and that we are maybe entering a phase where this will get even worse, that again, people will actually justify this genocide even more, and very openly. So I was, it's a commentary, but I would also like to hear what you think about that.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So, if there are any other questions, I'm wondering if possibly we could move it to lunch. So, if you, because I think we have 10 more minutes. It would be great to hear another round of responses from the panel, and then maybe a minute of conclusion for each, and we can close, okay? So, maybe we can start from Jelena this time, because we haven't heard from you. So,
okay. I will start with this role of science and university. I mean, we all work at neoliberal universities that are getting increasingly more neoliberal, even if we think that that's no longer possible. And here I think I would actually use the example of the ongoing genocide in Gaza. I mean, I'm based in Austria, and I haven't been living in Serbia for a very long time, so I don't want to speak in the name of about the Serbian universities and students because it's not my direct knowledge. But in Vienna, it is the Marxist student organizations that are the only, that make all the protests and all the solidarity protests in Vienna seem not just like Palestinian gatherings that they tend to be. They are the only actual groups who come massively to these protests and lead them. Otherwise, and that shows us, that's a great example of it, how students can lead different protests and how important they are at the moment in this. And of course, I don't have to explain to any of you being based here about the autonomous left and their positioning in this context of genocide and their anti-Deutsch and pro-Israeli positioning. So I think the students are here really Marxist student organizations are those that I have all my hope in at the moment, at least in the Vienna context. And otherwise, when it comes to, I think, Gaza, the situation is, the level of censorship and silencing at universities is unprecedented at the moment. When it comes to the question about how the left commemorates anti-fascism, I think this is a great question. And from the perspective of Serbia, where those of us who were getting politically socialized in the early 2000s, we were socialized to fight against revisionism that was everywhere. And then the period came where the People's Liberation War, as the emancipatory revolutionary experience that we draw our inspiration from, was hijacked from us by nationalists and even far-right groups and political elites, which is a completely new challenge where now we do have large-scale celebrations, military parades, exhibitions, TV programs, oral history projects, but not in the sense that we want it to be. There are, of course, many commemorations, but I think, with the exception maybe of Kresovi in Croatia, I can't think of any large-scale celebrations of liberation that are leftists that come from below in the post-Yugoslav space. And yeah, now we have this issue of hijacking of the People's Liberation War. But this is not only the history that belongs to the left, it is also, I would say, broader, our history, our shared history, because it is also historical experience of most families in the post-Yugoslav space. It is a common shared history across the post-Yugoslav space that doesn't only belong to the left. And this whole experience of emancipation, of liberation, of revolution has been entirely hijacked from us. And with unprecedented, again, reach in society, with unprecedented resources. I mean, I don't want to go into trying to provide some kind of solution because I can't. But yeah, it is a problem. And there are, of course, many historical projects, commemorations, and so on that take place. But now with these large-scale militarized celebrations, there is never sufficient reach of them or attraction to people beyond the left.
Perfect, thank you. So you can just pass it on to Vladimir, yeah.
Thank you very much for the comment in the back about nationalism. Excellent comment, I think. There are times and places where nationalism can be a progressive force. It can be an anti-imperialist force, especially in the neo-colonial world. Gaza is the best example now. But in Eastern Europe, it doesn't have a progressive, it's not a progressive force. It's not an anti-imperialist force. In countries like Hungary, Poland, Romania, it's a reactionary force. Jelena showed how nationalism was used to delegitimize anti-fascism, to delegitimize socialism, to delegitimize any idea of the left. So we need to be nuanced about this, like with everything in our analysis, and not have unidimensional characterizations of nationalism. It emerged as a bourgeois ideology in the 19th century, as a part of the hegemonic project of the bourgeoisie. And it still is in most of the world, especially in Europe. It's not in the global south. And we have to orientate differently from one part of the world to another. On the question about people's relation to the past, to the liberation from fascism and the 45 years of socialism, there is a real opening in consciousness, at least in Romania. The 90s, I grew up in the 90s, they were an ideological desert. It was total hegemony of anti-communist, nationalist, right-wing ideology. There was no space even for mild, progressive, social democratic ideas. But, as we say, capitalism is the best teacher of anti-capitalism. It created the objective conditions for people to start questioning capitalism, for people starting to ask, what about what was before '89? My parents had good jobs, we had a house, we had healthcare, we had decent living standards for the majority of population, there was no mass migration, there was no unemployment, no homelessness, no criminality. So when people ask, like you said, Jelena, yeah, but what about the Gulag? What about the crimes? The question should be, yeah, but what about full employment? What about public ownership of resources? What about housing for everybody, you know? How about lifting millions of people from abject poverty? It's my family's example. How about doubling the literacy rate in 20 years? Capitalist countries never achieved that in hundreds of years, what these countries achieved in 45 years. So, there is an opening consciousness, not just the people who lived those times and now are 50, 60, 70 years old. There's support for socialism and an attempt to recover socialism among the younger generations, among the 20-year-olds, even under 20. Because, and it's not a question of replicating exactly the same what we had before '89. We have to be critical, we have to see what didn't work and what worked. But there is an opening for socialist, anti-capitalist ideas, because these are children of crisis. They didn't grow up with the illusions of the 90s about the free market and the generalized prosperity that joining the EU would bring to everybody. They are children that grew up in constant precarity, constant housing crisis, constant austerity, and so on. So they are much easier to arrive to socialist, anti-capitalist conclusions than their parents' generation. So this is what we need to focus on, the younger generations, and this is the Romanian left is based around students and precarious young workers. This is where the future lies for us.
Thank you. Gyula? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for the question concerning Hungary and the developments in our country. I would like to underline once again the actual government of Hungary, headed by Prime Minister Orban, is not a fascist government. It means that the Hungarian capitalism has many other means to save capitalism. Prime Minister Orban wants to save capitalism with traditional means, using the means of state capitalism. We are against this government as a capitalist government, but we understand some aspects of this policy. You mentioned the question of nations. I think that the actual liberal policy says that we should clean the way before capital. And we should take away all the barriers, all the problems which can break or which can disturb the movement of capital. And among these elements, we can also see national sovereignty, the existence of, if there will be no nations in Europe, the liberal capital can conquer whole Europe. And in that case, we will have not a European Union, but we will have a United States of Europe. Something like which we cannot even imagine now. That we think that we should save nation. We want socialism in Hungary, but we want socialism for the Hungarian nation. And we want to build socialism under the circumstances of the Hungarian nation. The second moment, we are concerned that if liberal forces win in Hungary, it will lead to greater economic problems, to mass inflation, to other social consequences. And the liberal forces will not have other aims than use radical means, even violence. And if the situation will be worse, if the Hungarian stability collapses, I think that there will be two new elements. The one side, there will be a stronger right-wing, radical wing policy. Now we don't have it, but it can imagine, it can develop as an element of saving capitalism in Hungary. But on the other hand, I think that if the situation collapses, the anti-capitalist forces will also move forward. And the capital will use the right-wing forces against us, against those anti-capitalist forces which want to use this situation. No, and finally, I think that if we speak about anti-fascist struggle, we should imagine it in a wider understanding of this word. That if we accept that the policy of the existing Ukrainian government is a nationalist, fascist one, it means that we are fighting against this government. And we think that it is useful. In Hungary, the liberal leadership of Budapest, the Hungarian capital, 2 years ago put the Ukrainian flag on the building of the house of the capital, and we said that it is not good. We discussed and we organized demonstrations against it. We didn't ask to put the Russian flag. No, we don't need neither the Russian flag nor the Ukrainian flag. 2 days before, when coming to Berlin, I walked around the Berliner Rat, the Council of Berlin, and you can see the German flag, you can see the Berlin flag, but you can see two flags which I don't understand. The flag of Israel and the flag of Ukraine. Why? In the center of Berlin. Berlin is an independent city, and Germany is an independent country. And finally, I think that now we should find a common language. There's all forces, all political forces which are against fascism. They shouldn't be communists, they shouldn't be Marxists, they shouldn't be left. Just the importance to fight against fascism, to fight against violence, to fight against war, to fight against extreme forms of saving capitalism. If we want to save Europe and if we want to save our nations, I think that we should go this way. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you'll get approached a lot at lunch. So maybe we can go to Florian and then we can conclude. Yeah.
Okay. So, we have many problems many problems in Poland, but there is one problem that we don't have. So only few in Polish left, only few people justify genocide in Gaza. These people are very active in internet. In general, in Polish internet, there is many fans of genocide. Yeah, in Polish internet, but their influence to Polish radical left is almost zero. Yeah, so in Polish left we have few people which are active in justifying genocide in Gaza. So, but the problem is that. So, Polish radical left spontaneously condemn all Israeli attacks, yeah, but among people who had a correct position in Palestinian-Israeli issue, Among them are many people who support fascist terror in Donbass. Yeah, so this in Poland we have this problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So if this is all, thank you again to the panel for taking part in such an interesting discussion. In the afternoon, we are going to have like a discussion on West Europe. The moderator has safely arrived, so that's okay, that's good news. And hopefully at the end of the day, we should hopefully be able to maybe draw some common lines and think about how we move forward together. But yeah, okay. So thank you everyone for being here.